Hello and welcome to Behind the Bearcat. This is the podcast where the Northwest Missouri State University Career Services Department chats with Northwest alumni, faculty, staff, students, and friends about their career journeys, how they got to where they are, and how they became Bearcats. I'm Northwest Internship Coordinator Travis Kline.
And I'm Hannah Christian, the Assistant Director of Career Services. And
today we are joined by Jesse Reed, who is a Career Ambassador with Career Services, the President of the Cyber Defense Club, and a member of the Speaking Bearcats Forensics team. Welcome, Jesse.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Ha we got you in the studio. All right, I'm super excited about this interview, Jesse.
Same. It's exciting.
So usually I start with, as a student, how did you find Northwest? Get to Northwest? What made you come to Northwest?
Okay, that's a weird story. But for just the Northwest portion of that, basically, because my dad works with a company, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and he was like, we get lots of people hired from Northwest. They have a really good comp sci program. So, let's go check it out. So we came, and the first thought I had was, because Dr. Spradling gave the tour, was she really reminded me of my high school teacher for web design and stuff like that. And I felt the passion was there. So I was like, this place seems pretty cool so far. And then compared to my other choices, it was just more financially affordable for the opportunity it provided. So I was like, I'll go with that.
So you wanted to do computer science right out of the gate?
Sort of. So in high school, I bounced back and forth between English and computer science. For a while, I wanted to go into the publishing industry to do content editing and then copy editing. But then ultimately I was like, well, if I go to Northwest, I probably should do computer science because I enjoy that as well, and it's probably going to land me in better places than getting an English major. And the publishing industry is just kind of hard to get into unless you're in New York City or Boston while studying.
So when did you get your first computer?
When did I get my first computer? I remember having a really old desktop, maybe before I was 10, but I only had puzzles on it that my grandma would send my dad, and so I could do the digital puzzles, and it was very satisfying watching them click together. But I didn't really get my first own computer until after I graduated middle school. My dad got me a really small Microsoft Surface laptop for high school, and then after high school my graduation gift was the money to build a computer.
Oh, that's cool. So you built your own computer? So
yeah.
The computer you use now is you built it.
Yeah.
So tell us, for all those who might be listening who want to hear about building computers, what your specially built computer is.
What my specially built computer is. I don't know all the part names off the top of my head, but it's pretty run-of-the-mill. It's got, I don't know how technical it is. It's got 16 gigs of RAM, decent CPU. It's a hexa-core. So there's 6 cores running in it, and then it's got a 1060 graphics card. It's pretty well built to do decent, high-end gaming, as well as if I wanted to go into video editing for some real silly reason, I could do that as well. The next step is at some point I want to build my own keyboard, but we'll get there because that's a little more expensive.
All right, so let's back up and talk about what was your first job ever in your life? Okay, and also it had to be paid, and also your parents were not paying you to do it.
Okay. It would probably be my job on campus with the newspaper then. I think it's my true first official job.
So what was that, and how did you find it?
Yeah, so I served on the newspaper for a semester doing reporting as just an A&E reporter, and then I did a semester as the opinion section editor. And the way I sort of got involved with it is I remember on a tour day at some point, I think maybe during SOAR or something, I talked to the radio people and I was kind of interested in that, but I never ended up getting involved with that till later. But I was picking up the newspapers from Student Media Day, which you should do because content is good and you should keep up with Northwest stuff. And one day I grabbed it, and then I came back a minute later and I was like, how do I get involved with copy editing? And they looked at me and they're like, did we hear you correctly? No one just comes to us to copy edit. I was like, well, I'm interested. And so they brought me in, and I kind of shadowed for a semester under Abby Hugo, helping her copy edit. And then I started writing a little bit, and it sort of took off from there.
So you got to use those English skills of the other major you were thinking about.
Exactly. For a little bit, I was kind of using that as maybe a backup so I could go into copy editing if I wanted to, just because it was kind of fun. It also kind of works for technical writing with computer science, but I ended up moving away from journalism just because I kind of realized deadline journalism wasn't for me. I preferred to have a little more time.
Yeah, that's a quick turnaround, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me about Speaking Bearcats. How did you get involved in that?
Yeah, so I showed up for forensics. It starts in high school because I did not do debate my freshman year, which was one of my biggest regrets probably from high school. But I had one of my friends who's in it, and they're like, yeah, this is pretty fun. You should check it out. And so I think I skipped Spanish class one day because we had a sub, and like it's like everyone's high school Spanish class. It's not really a real class. And I went down to watch like some people preparing for forensics, and I was like, this environment feels fun. And so then I got involved with Model United Nations because the coach for forensics also was like the leader of that or whatever. And then sophomore year, I ended up taking debate, and I did that all through high school. So I'm a really big debater, all right on the like speaking individual stuff. And then so when I came here, Brian Swaff, so he had his first meeting for the semester my freshman year, and I was talking to my roommate, and I was like, I don't know, like, should I go? Because it might be fun, but also I don't know if I want to go because I prefer more debate. And he's like, just do it. And so I did it, and then the people were cool. And so I stuck with them since then.
So what are they called? What events do you participate in with them?
Specifically, I do extemporaneous speaking, impromptu public forum debate. And then one day I have a dream that I'll get an informative speech out. And I'm sure Swaff would like me to get the informative speech out. But for some reason, me and platform speeches just don't get along well. But basically, speaking is you're given 3 questions, and you pick a question out of those 3. And it's normally a political question, whether it's about a foreign country or our local issues here in the U.S. And you have 30 minutes to prep a speech on that, practice it, and then just kind of go up and give the speech. So it's kind of stressful, but it's fun, and there's a formula to make it easier. Impromptu similar, but you're just kind of given a random quote, and everyone gets the same quote. And then you have 7 minutes to divide across prep and then actually performing, and you can divide it whatever you want, but we normally shoot for about 1:30 sitting there prepping, and you're writing on your note card in front of everyone, so it's kind of weird at first, but then you use that other remaining time to actually give the speech. Talk about Blade Runner a lot for it.
In extemporaneous, how long is your actual speech versus the prep time?
Yeah, so it's a 7-minute speech for that 30 minutes of prep.
I don't know if anyone's ever tried to give a 7-minute speech, but sometimes that seems like a very long time.
It goes by pretty quickly because we get a little note card, mainly so we don't make up our sources on the fly, because that's not pretty cool. But we kind of break it down to an intro, a conclusion, and then 3 sort of points between with like an A and a B on each point. And so you kind of run into a problem sometimes where you go over time because you get so in depth in the analysis. So for me, at least a lot, I have to actually like sort of pull myself back, include less content, and then slow down so I don't go light speed.
Do you think speaking quickly, like speaking too fast, in being on a debate team, being in the classes and seeing things, is that something that's pretty common? Just speaking quickly or talking fast. I know Jill, boy, she can sometimes just roll it out, and I'm just like, whoa, Nelly.
I don't think it's super common for everyone. For me, high school debate, which then turns into college policy debate, if you don't do public forum and stuff, is really weird, and the idea is kind of just shotgun them with a bunch of arguments and then go for what they don't have time to answer. As it's kind of evolved into this like they call it spreading, or like this sprint reading, where you just talk literally as fast as you can, and the judges are used to it because they did it at some point, and so that's kind of bled over a little bit into just normal conversation stuff. So I have to remind myself, slow down. But for some people, like our other platform speakers, they're normally pretty slow and precise with their punctuation and stuff.
That's fascinating. Huh.
All
those little nuances that you never knew about.
And you've been really successful, too. I mean, you've national competitions.
Yeah.
Talk to us about your successes, Jesse.
Well, so on a tournament-to-tournament basis, I normally break an impromptu or extempo, sometimes both. And whenever you break, it's the top 6 people break, and they go to finals. So you know for sure you're at least top 6. And normally an extemp tournament has around 4 or 5 rooms of 6, so 25 to 30-ish people, something like that. And I'm really good at placing 4th for extemp. But then we also have a tournament. I'm hoping to get past 4th eventually. But we also have a tournament called PCSDL, which is one of our national tournaments, where we just kind of do a bunch of fun events. And I can't remember everything, but I did well enough, I guess, to get some national championships there. Specifically, the 2 I can remember off the top of my head are Pichakucha and humorous political commentary. And so Pichakucha is kind of based off the Japanese PowerPoint style where I think it's 20 slides that are 20 seconds each. So it's like 6 minutes, 40 seconds, probably wrong math there. And it just auto rotates. And so I did it on layer tennis, which is just Photoshop tennis where you bounce back and forth photos and you edit them and add a layer. And so I was able to get first with that. And then I also did a humorous political commentary, which is like become John Oliver for 5 minutes, basically, or like Jimmy Fallon, whoever you watch. And then
whoever you want to channel your inner humorous
and so you talk about whatever topic. And so it was back when the election was really starting to get started and candidates were announcing themselves. And so you have the A candidates and you have the candidates you're going to actually make it and actually matter. And then you have sort of that B team / C team. And so I was just kind of poking fun at them and going like, you're kind of interesting, but realistically, like, no.
You're also president of the Cyber Defense Club on campus. So what does that group do for folks that may not be aware?
So it's a very, very niche club. But hypothetically, our goal is to teach our students who come. And you can be a cybersecurity comp sci major. You can be whoever you want, really.
Can I join the Cyber Defense Club?
If you want to, yeah. We try to break things down really simply. So we're not just like, talking in complete jargon. We try to explain everything because we have freshmen who come in and haven't even had network fundamentals. So if I'm like, hey, do the thing with the port and the firewall and blah, 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 they're like, huh? But basically, we sort of do a lecture type thing where every week someone will ask a question. They'll go, I want to know the answer to this or how to do this. And then they go down the rabbit hole, they figure it out, and then they come back to us. They do like a 30-minute talk on it, basically. Kind of like a mini TED Talk, I guess. And then we'll sometimes set up a lab to go with it so students can actually practice what they saw there and just sort of learn these different areas of cybersecurity that I kind of like to think of it like we give you the toolbox to go with the theory you learn in the classroom, I guess.
That's a cool way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Do you guys have competitions for Cyber Defense Club as well?
Yeah, so every semester we do NCL or the National Cyber League, which is kind of an interesting competition. It's entirely remote, so you can do it from home or wherever, and it's hosted on their website. And they basically have a wide variety of categories from like password cracking to reverse engineering or whatever it may be. And we sign up for it individually, and they have basically it's 3 parts. They have like a preseason where you basically are placed through that based on how you do to like bronze, gold, or silver. And then there's the individual game, which is like a weekend long. And so people participate individually. And then we have the team game. So we can get into teams of 7. So this past semester, we basically had enough people from the club that we had 2 teams of roughly 7. And then you just compete and there's a leaderboard and you see how you do. And then...
So in the competition, when you say you compete, what are you actually doing to compete?
Sure. So we call it capture the flag, but you're not running across the field in gym shorts. Instead, basically, if I was doing password cracking, that section, for example, they would give me a question, the resources I need for the question, sort of, and then say, what is the flag or what's the answer? So if I'm given, this encrypted password and I figure out how to crack it on my own, and that plain text password, so like password 1234, that's the flag. And so I submit that and it tells me if I got it right or wrong. If I get it right, I get points. And then every time I get it wrong, my accuracy goes down. And so you also want to worry about your accuracy. Another example is if you're reverse engineering a program and it's like, hey, here's a snippet of code. What is a valid variable to make it pass, for example? You figure out that variable and then that's the flag, if you will.
So the answer.
Yeah.
Capture the answer, right?
Pretty much.
I gotcha.
And so
so that's the same for individual and then teams? Do you go through the ranking process in the preseason with your team as well?
So the way the team placement is decided for like bracket is it's just an average, I think, of the actual members. So if you're mainly gold team members and like 1 silver, you're probably going to be placed as gold. And it's interesting because the way they break it down on the scoreboard is despite your bracket, I guess is the term, you're still able to see how you compare to everyone else. So hypothetically, if you're in bronze, you could still become first overall, but it also just shows you on a breakdown how you are against other people around the same skill level as you. So it has like multiple scoreboards.
So the idea is like to use those kind of white hat hacking skills to then be able to make the system stronger when you're a professional, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. So the NCL, it's more of an offensive-based one where there's some questions with like log analysis and stuff that you definitely use when you're defending, like a company or something. But in general, also focuses more on the like penetration testing stuff or like testing your defenses. We're also doing the Collegiate Cyber Defense Club, which is more on what we call the blue team side, where it's purely defending. And so that's actually happening next week. And we have a team of 8 put together, and basically we're given a virtual environment with like so many machines and so many services we have to keep up and running. And the old IT team sucked, so they're fired. We're the new team, and we're having to basically secure this network, make sure it's running smoothly like butter, and we have to deal with what they call injects, where they'll say, hey, we need a new password policy, so kind of like your boss asking for something. And we have to reply to those and do what they tell us to do, while also defending, because they hire, I think last year they had maybe 2 or 3 professional penetration test teams who are actually going after each blue team and trying to find ways into their network and hack them. So it's a very intense situation.
So like the one who hangs in there the longest wins, right? Like, are you based on time? Are you based on like point system there?
So it's a set time limit. I think it's like 10 to 5 is when it takes place. And basically we have certain services we have to keep running, or our SLAs, and sort of you get points for every time they check to see if they're up. So they'll do maybe a check every 30 minutes, and you lose points if they aren't up. And also if like any of your data is stolen or anything like that. And so you're technically in it till the end. It's just you might be in it with like 4 popped tires and like a muffler that's fallen off.
And there's smoke coming out from under the hood.
Yeah, pretty much.
That sounds like, the ultimate PBL. Like, that's,
right?
That's how you learn how to do it, is by doing it under intense pressure. So
yeah, definitely. It's good for teamwork because it's really easy to get frustrated with each other. So we're also this year trying to focus on making sure that we have a good communication system, and we've established someone as sort of like a project manager, if you will, to be like, hey, I really need you to do this right now. What do you need? That way we're not just like
scrambling.
Yeah.
Right?
We're trying to go in more with a game plan, because last year was really kind of the first year we've truly done it. I think we did it a year before that, but it was like 5 or 6 years ago. It was a while ago. And so we're going into it with more of a game plan this time, and we've really been laying out like, okay, so like during the first hour, what are you going to be doing on your machine and stuff like that.
A little bit of a strategy, right?
Yeah, I think. We'll see.
You're also the first career ambassador that we've had on the podcast. So
congratulations.
Cool. Yeah. So can you tell, folks out there, that's a small group of students, what you actually do as a CA?
Yeah, so kind of my job is to help other students get jobs. So we help do the resume critiques and cover letter critiques and stuff in the office, but we also help do job searches for students and explain that process to them, and sort of bridge that medium of, you don't just have like a teacher going, you need to get an internship, here's how. We can kind of maybe relate to them more on that one-on-one level. But we'll also like go out and do presentations, or even help present to touring groups of potential students, and just kind of help run events and stuff like that. Just kind of to show students like, hey, it's not too hard to do this stuff. Just come talk to us and we'll help you out.
A little bit of an approachability factor.
Yeah, I think so.
What made you want to be a career ambassador?
Well, so it's actually kind of interesting. I think I did what every freshman kind of did coming into college, where I shotgunned the HR job postings board. But specifically with the career ambassador job, I was really determined to get this job because I just got done applying for a job in the international student office or whatever in the library. And the interview went really, really well. I felt really confident. And then I realized I probably should be honest, because whoever I was interviewing with, she said like, hey, we're going to want so many hours of you. And I was like, well, I might end up being an RA. Not an RA, but it was a possibility because I was applying for that. And she's like, well, you wouldn't be able to get enough time that way. And I was like, okay, yeah, no worries. But this office is really flexible with that. So it worked out well. But also just looking at like the description and stuff, it was really presentation based. And I was like, well, I present like every weekend and it comes pretty naturally to me. So why not? And then also the fact that, working in the career services office probably means you're going to have a better career yourself, because you get all that sort of professional development day in, day out. So
that's true. You have a lot of access with employers. They kind of come in the office when they're in, they can see you sitting there doing the professional work, right? The professional level things. I think one aspect that you overlooked that you were really good at because of your preparation was that research aspect, right? So researching what is this job required, because if you remember, Jesse, what did we make you do in that first interview? Do you remember that?
I thought that interview went so poorly. I did not think I was going to get a call from Jill. But you guys had us do this group sort of task, if you will, where Jill was looking for a job, and we had to find her a job. And it was very nerve-wracking, mainly because Joe, I never know.
Sukon.
Yeah. He was awesome in that interview. And the only thing I knew about Joe is he gave my SOAR tour. And so I'm thinking, I am dead meat. This guy is so much better than me. And he had found a job like that, like immediately. And then Carson was also there, and she found one pretty quickly. I was just sitting there scrambling like, oh my God, I'm the only one who doesn't have anything. But it was good because it kind of helped us prepare for like seeing like how well can you quickly find an answer to something.
Yeah, so I think that research skill, right, of if you're doing, even if it's quick research for a speech, or if you're doing research for something else, like really finding a job is a lot about research.
Right.
If you do the backside research, you're gonna have a little bit more, I don't want to say easy go of it. I don't want to throw that out there, but the more preparation you do, the better you're prepared, right?
Mm-hmm. That's just like anything else. What you put in is what you get out, so...
One of my favorite stories Travis tells, they're like, how did you get to be the internship coordinator? He's like, I didn't know what that job did, so I did a lot of research. I was like, well, there you go, right?
Yeah, it makes a difference. And I never had an internship as a student because I worked in radio part-time, so it's, I get to do as I say, not as I do. Like, if I could go back, I would do what I'm telling you all to do. So,
and I know you've had some an internship or some internships. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. So over this past summer, I interned on the information security team. There's like so many different names for cybersecurity stuff, but I helped get to do that stuff basically with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas. So everyone I think kind of knows what Blue Cross Blue Shield is. They're a health insurance company. And so I just kind of got to see how their process works, which was nice because they're a fairly large company, and sort of help put my foot in the door and say, what do you need done? And so they tasked me with basically helping find them a new tool for password management. And so that's where I spent a lot of my summer, as well as just helping patch machines and go, hey, you're vulnerable. We need to take care of that. And then I also interned with them over this past winter break, where I kind of got to play like musical chairs. So everyone was going on vacation and stuff. So basically blank employee was gone. I'm going to go fill in their spot and do like their day-to-day job, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like you're like a substitute.
So nice for the company that they have someone in that spot. That maybe we'll take that job someday. So yeah, that's cool.
What are you looking for internships in the future or coming up this summer or next?
Yeah, for sure. So this coming summer, I think I'm gonna intern with Blue Cross again, just because it's a good experience, and I have that lined up already. And maybe I'll intern with them more in the future. I think my stretch goal is to maybe find an internship with somewhere that's a little more bleeding edge, I guess, because Blue Cross is very up to date and everything. It's just they're very secure, and they also, through that secureness, there's not a lot to do from that perspective other than just keep things running. But also they don't do a lot of testing against themselves. They mainly outsource that because it's just easier to do that, especially if you don't have a big dedicated team to do that testing, which they don't. So I'm hoping to maybe find an internship somewhere possibly that does a little more of that internal testing so I can get a perspective from both ends. The dream would be if I somehow found a research institution that does like vulnerability research. So discovering 0 days or exploitable code and stuff in programs before it's actually found, and then publishing that research and then going, here's a solution. But the only downside is they don't really take people in quite easily like that, at least so far. Maybe I'm missing something.
What schools, are there any programs you're thinking of? Schools?
So
places?
More like, I say institution, and that
you
sounds
mean
like school.
Institute, right?
Yeah.
You mean like the research institute of whatever.
Yeah, like they have specific vulnerability researching labs. I can't think of any like names off the top of my head, but it's where like literally all they do every day is they just throw stuff at the wall and see what breaks, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And
so kind of like career
fun.
Services.
Yeah.
So one thing we've been asking students who've come on is advice for other students. You know, you've been a successful college student, you're very involved, you've had pretty cool on-campus jobs. So how does somebody who's maybe just starting out, what advice would you give them to be successful in this whole whirlwind?
Yeah. So I think it's a weird question. Like, it's a good question, but I'm trying to think how to construct it. I think the first thing is, like, obviously you don't want to give up. because like I applied to a lot of like on-campus jobs before I even got to the newspaper or career services as a career ambassador. And I remember thinking like, oh, I need to apply to everything. I'm not going to get offers unless I'm literally trying my best. I like at one point I saw they had like a farmhand job position open. I was like,
did you apply for that?
So I was going to, because I was like, I probably should, because if I don't get a job, then it's still a job whether I like it or not. But luckily, it requires you to have an ag major, so I got saved. But definitely keep applying. Don't give up, even if things don't seem to go your way. Probably come to career services just because we can explain how that process works, and we can give you interviewing experience and help make sure your resume is going to land you those interviews. But also to not like. I think you also just want to make sure you're still having fun with it and you're not getting too stressed out, because something's always going to show up. I mean, Lori always talks about at the front desk, like if you apply to a job and even if you get an interview and you don't get it, like whatever, like your life still goes on and you're probably going to find something else that's just as cool, if not better. So just kind of go with it. But also just in general for like, I think freshmen, my first semester freshman year was kind of rough because I was like trying to put my fingers into everything. So I think everyone says get really involved, but I think you want to get involved in things that you want to get involved in. Don't just get involved for the sake of getting involved. Otherwise, you just really spread yourself out thin, and then you're behind on homework. You're not really finding any internships, and you're also just not having a good time. And then also just like start right away if you want to. I mean, anyone can have an internship. Like my internship kind of snuck up on me freshman year. Originally, I was going to work out helping out at a racetrack for like minimum wage. So I was like, I need a job over summer. So
I think that's a key thing that we often hear, and Travis can probably verify this, but I can't have an internship because I'm a freshman, or I'm not looking for one because I'm just a freshman. What do you think about that? Obviously you had one, right?
Yeah.
Right after your freshman year of college.
So I think it's kind of part of that is anyone can get an internship. You just have to be appealing enough to the company and present what you can help them. But also just like networking was really helpful. I mean, you need to reach out. I saw an interesting thing on LinkedIn actually, where like I think it was a CEO posted it, where they were like, I always tell my kids as they're growing up, when you're like a kindergartner, you could reach the president with a letter and they'll probably reply. As you get older to like middle school, you could probably reach like a CEO of a company and maybe get some feedback. But as you get older and older, people are less inclined to help because it's less like impressive to reach out. So a freshman reaching out is kind of a little more impressive, right, than a senior going, I need a job right now. And so it's just impressive to see people take that initiative. And I think doing that as a freshman is really helpful, because reaching out to those companies, even if they don't offer you anything, and just going, hey, what are you looking for? What should I be doing? Is going to just help you out.
That's a good perspective. I don't think we hear that enough from students. I think that's really, really good perspective.
Yeah, I think that not being afraid to swing is a huge, you miss 100% of the pitches you don't swing at, for a terrible baseball analogy, but it's true. I mean, if you never try, you'll never get anything, so don't be afraid to try.
I got one last question for you.
I've got one last answer.
Awesome. You might have to take your 90 seconds to write on your little note card. Just going to write. What does it mean to you to be a Bearcat?
Okay. What does it mean to me to be a Bearcat? I think being a Bearcat just means, taking all the opportunities you can take, getting involved and helping each other out. I think one cool thing about this campus is I don't really ever see people intentionally antagonizing each other or not helping people out. I mean, everyone's very welcoming. I think I was hanging out with a friend one day and I ended up in like the student senate office despite never being involved in student senate, and no one was like, hey, you need to get out. Like, you don't belong here. So I think it's just being really welcoming and inviting, helpful, and then also just trying to get seize all the opportunities that are sent your way. I think we're really good as Bearcats and as Northwest, making the most of those career opportunities and sending those around to each other and making sure everyone's successful, not kind of leaving others out while you sort of race to the top.
All right. Thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that will do it for another Behind the Bearcat, and we will talk to you next time. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed that episode. Don't forget to follow on your podcast platform of choice and on YouTube. Also, click the little notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an upload. And you can follow us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and we have a LinkedIn page.